host, Adela Jagoto. Today we'll be talking about the Christian and entertainment, and in particular, books. Here to help me are my friends,
Dumase,
Lunta,
Benisi,
and Raywell.
You know, I know a lot of people love to read books, but I also know that a lot of people love to research and just read random articles. But to what extent do the things that we read affect us? That's what we'll be looking at today. You know, guys, reading is a much more productive way to spend your time than watching movies and series. I'm sure we can all agree with that. But today we want to look at the extent to which these things, you know, affect us in our minds and our characters and stuff like that. So that's what we'll be looking at today. So to begin with, let's just browse through some of the genres of books or things that are there to read, just randomly.
investigative,
young adult,
Sci-fi.
romance,
action.
comedy.
And do you think that out of these genres, are there certain things that we shouldn't be reading?
Definitely. Books are able to stimulate our creative and imaginative parts of our brain, and this really affects us in ways that we really can't imagine. But the Bible does mention that we should be able to keep our thoughts pure and clean. So if the book that you're reading doesn't really do that, I don't think you should be able to read it.
And does anyone else have anything to say? Anything to add on?
Yeah, like for example, there's smut, like smut novels, smut in novels, and smut by definition is language, pictures or stories that deal with sex in a way that is offensive, and you can find that in multiple places. So, like reading that constantly may like desensitize you to some of the things that are happening, like in these novels, there are relationships that aren't acceptable in the Christian life, like in the real world, but like you're accepting it in the novel, and then it becomes more real for you as you continue to like normalize it in everything that you read. So it's like important to like, you know, just guard yourself against some of these things.
And so are you two saying that pretty much when you read things, it can have an impact on your character? Yeah. Okay. And how important do you think it is to monitor what we read? Do you think it's possible to monitor like every single thing we read?
I feel it's very important to monitor what we read, because inevitably the things we feed our minds are the things we become.
Okay.
If I like to read novels that depict violence, I as a person will depict a violent nature. So it's very important to monitor, or let's say mind the things we read. Very important.
Because I feel you know what makes you tick, you know what can cause you to sin, what can cause you to stumble. So I feel like it's better for you to control these things because, as you say, it forms your character. So you know what can lead you to stumble and fall into sin. So it's better for you to avoid these things.
And the thing about like trying to monitor like checklist, like if what you're reading is okay, is that it's tiring. You don't want to do it. Like you don't want to think, okay, is what I'm reading this, or is it like pure, is it going to help me? Like it takes effort to do something like that, and we just want to read for the love of it. We don't want to take that stop and take that like, you know, effort to think about it. But then it's something that we have to do, like a habit we have to develop, and it does take effort, because going about it passively means you won't even think about it, you just read whatever.
And especially when you're becoming a bookworm starts from a very young age, and parents should be able to monitor what their kids read. And if the kid already knows that I can't read this and I love to read this, it'll be easier for him or her when they grow up. They'll really like deflect from that. And for me personally, I was privileged to be a bookworm from a really young age. I love reading books, but at some point my parents were able to drive me into the books that I really love to read, which was like the science books and stuff. So I can really advise, let's say parents or really young kids, that they should find what they really love besides reading proper novels and books, but something that they can actually learn from. It'll be way better than reading other genres that really can benefit them.
But in this day and age with social media and, you know, being able to read books online, do you think that's still possible for parents to monitor what their children read, or even just individually? Is it possible to still monitor? Because you might just look at a title and it seems innocent, but when you actually get into it, you know, you find that it's not. So what would you say to that?
Well, the Bible does say if parents raise a child, so start raising a child at the young age and controlling what that child does and reads and whatnot, when they grow up they will not deflect from it. They will keep that way. So I feel like if you start to control what a child reads at a young age, and you do it properly, and I feel like in the end the child realizes what I do, the things that I'm reading are not wrong. I know what is wrong and what is right. So I feel like it would be easier for someone to control what they read.
And parents of this day and age really think that social media, or basically the internet, can't be protected, or they can't really do anything about what their kids can watch or read, basically. But I feel like parents should know that there is apps or ways to really prevent from their kid to derive to watch other things or read other things, basically. They can Google it, they can find ways to monitor what their child reads. So it's pretty simple, but it just needs you to work on it as well.
Yeah, true. Linda, could you read for us Philippians 4 verse 8?
Alright, Philippians 4 verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this song sung by Behold entitled Chigondi. Thank you, Behold, for that beautiful item of music. Before the song, we were talking about books and the kinds of things that we should be reading as Christians and the kind of books that we shouldn't be reading as Christians. Damasi, could you please read 1 Peter 4, verse 7?
Okay, it reads, "But the end of all things is at hand. But ye therefore sober and watch unto pray."
And we talked about how the things we read influences our character, and the Bible here is clearly stating that we need to be of sound mind, and if we're reading things that might corrupt our minds, this is pretty much contrary to what the Bible is saying. But now I'd just like to look at those who study literature in school. I think I had that problem when I was doing my advanced subsidiary level in school, where one of the books that we were reading, it was a poetry book, but you found that like some of the poems were very they were contradicting the Christian ethos and stuff like that. So what would you do in that situation where it's sort of a set text from your examination board? Do you think as a Christian, do you think you should sort of say, no, I can't study this, or do you just go with the flow? What do you think?
I believe, right, from the onset, the curriculum is not formed or structured to make you believe. You don't have to believe what you're studying. So as long as you're studying to pass the exam, for me it's okay. You don't have to believe what you're studying. You know your faith and morals, and you know what you stand for. So don't believe it. Just pass the exam.
Listen, know how to analyze it, get through it, and because the book is there, just it's trying to teach you, give you perspective, because that's what school's for. It's trying to teach us various things. We may or may not agree with it, but that's part of what you will decide as you grow. Like, for example, at our school, we had a philosophy class that's part of the curriculum, and we were reading a book by one of the world's most avowed atheists, and he has his points, right? And I read him. He has his points, is valid, but you know what? In the end, it's that's his perspective, and I still have mine that I'm going to stick to.
We'll be right back after the break.
Boys and girls, the moment you've been waiting for. Youth Podium on Hope Channel Malawi. Programu yetu ya Nyamata, omwe muzikala nkhani zokuza moyo watu wa tsiku ndi tsiku. Youth and talents, evangelism, technology, HIV/AIDS, leadership, and many more. So join me every Sunday evening at 7:30 as I bring you topic by topic pano pa bwalo la Chinyamata. Youth Podium, tikambe zimenezi, only on Hope Channel Malawi. Wow, you don't have to miss this.
Kind of things that we shouldn't be reading. We haven't talked about the things that we should be reading. Looking at children's novels, we talk about Enid Blyton, Percy Jackson, and even though their novels are quite exciting, there are some things that they have written that are quite, controversial. So what would you say to things like that?
Well, Percy Jackson, for example, I read it in early high school, it's about Greek gods, right? And like, yeah, I'm a Christian, and it's about Greek gods, but still, they're Greek gods. Like they're not real. They're like being played up in a story. But for some people, they may be like, oh my goodness, you're reading a book about other gods and everything. Like I don't know. Personally, I think it's a story. It's just entertaining. I don't know. Like,
So it's okay to read it.
I think it's okay. Like,
I feel like it should be more of, does it compromise your beliefs, or are you just doing it because is it causing a loophole in your beliefs, or are you just doing it because, oh no, it's satisfying my flesh, or I like it, so I'm gonna read it anyway, or is it going to edify you in any way? I feel like that's the thing that you think about when you're reading a book. Don't just, oh, I like it, so I'm going to read it. But
For me,
yeah, as a Christian,
for me, my earliest memory of loving books was reading books by like Dr. Seuss or like Ginny Jones, or like really children books. Children books really are not realistic in some sense. They're very cartoon-like, very animated. So those ones are okay because it just really stimulates your imagination. At a young age, you just really need that. But as you're getting older, you can see that the books are getting more real. Like they're having more real people with real problems, and that's where like it gets really controversial, because you kind of want to have the same things as well. So like she said, if it does create a loophole in your religion, in your life, then you should actually check it twice.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you guys. I'd just like to share this quote from Ellen White in her pamphlet, Principles for the Young. In chapter 3 on reading, she writes, "The young are in great danger. Great evil results from their light reading. Much time is lost which should be spent in useful employment. Some would even deprive themselves of sleep to finish some ridiculous love story. The world is flooded with novels of every description. Some are not of as dangerous a character as others. Some are immoral, low, and vulgar. Others are clothed with more refinement, but all are pernicious in their influence. Oh, that the young would reflect upon the influence which exciting stories have upon the mind. Can you, after such reading, open the Word of God and read the words of life with interest?" And that's a question. I think personally, even when I finish reading a novel, it can be very difficult to actually, open the Bible to hear what God has to say, because, the novels and even just articles and things that we read, blogs or whatever, they really create some excitement in you, and it gets you thinking and stuff. And then when you open the Word of God, it can just seem really boring and monotonous. So yeah, that's what she said about it. And what do you guys think about this?
I have a quick question though. What about like magazines? You just covered books, but what about magazines? They also have the same impact as books, basically. And what about magazines? What type of magazines should we read?
well, like if you think about, okay, like when you go to saloon, like one of my magazine pen about just random new magazine about celebrities and stuff like that. And I read them, and it's young. Like it's like stories about this actress in Hollywood, that what she wore. Like personally, that does nothing for me, so I don't read it. But like I don't know, maybe if there was like going along her lines, she says, okay, it's not doing anything to edify my spirit, and I'm not learning anything, so maybe just avoid it.
For me, it's about positivity. If I read the magazine and at the end of reading the magazine, I feel positive about myself, or I have a positive outlook towards life, I'll read that straight up. Positivity.
News reports are positive.
No, but the reality.
So you just want a positive vibe from the book or the magazine, basically.
Technically.
What is your definition of a positive vibe?
My definition of positivity is this: I read something, right, and at the end of reading it, my let's say character has not been compromised. I feel uplifted. I feel motivated to strive towards my goals, towards anything. That's positivity for me. So if I'm reading a book and I feel that, heads on.
well, as long as not putting a loophole in your Christianity, then that's fine.
Yes.
But how would you know that it has created a loophole or it has uplifted me?
I think, like Adela said, she finishes reading a book and she doesn't even want to go and read the Bible because she knows the Bible says something against what she just read.
No, I don't think it.
So, because I think
It would affect you if maybe, okay, maybe if, you know how novels, they're written so that there's conflict, right? And like it's like endured and like it's so carved, right? And then the Bible is like, okay, you have to sit, you can't read it passively the same way you can read the conflict in a novel, you have to think. So if your brain is like, all I want to read is like conflict and story, then you think, so like love your neighbor as you love yourself and have to think about it, then maybe, but I don't know, not the feeling. I don't think the feeling after you
the Holy Spirit will captivate you and tell you. There's some things even your conscious, okay, what I'm reading is quite wrong according to your beliefs that you have. What I'm reading is quite wrong. So, yeah, that's what I meant.
So I think the bottom line is, as long as it doesn't create a loophole and it has a positive impact on your character and your spirituality, then I guess it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for joining me today. Let's hear from what our pastor has to say about this.
One of the things that I've really tried fighting for right now in many of the churches is to bring back the culture of reading. I feel that the culture of reading has died. Young people do not read. And I feel that some young people wouldn't even read to save their lives. If there was a new book that has come out, you give me a book here and you tell me there's a movie on that book, I'm sure I'll go for the movie. And many young people would also go for the movie as opposed to reading the book. But when it comes to reading the books that we have, what kind of material are we reading? What is in that material that we are reading? Is it good? I mean, we have lots of these romance novels. We have fictional novels, stuff that's horror and whatever it is that people engage themselves in. Now, the problem that we have with that kind of material is that you begin to live in a fictional world. Okay, a lot of what we read is not real. It's fiction, and you start to feel that should be the reality. So you now live in a fantasy, and everything about you want it to match up to what you have read. But that cannot be the case, and it will not be the case. And because you read so much of these books, life becomes boring. Your friends become uninteresting. You're like, but you're not like, Pedro, who I've been reading about. You're not like this person. And even your relationships, you now base them on this fiction. And fantasy becomes real to you because of what you have been reading. Everything else seems lame. What does the book of Proverbs tell us? Let's read Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 7. Proverbs chapter 14 verse 7. It says, "Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge." You do not meet words of knowledge. The writings that you're reading, are they bringing out knowledge? Are they bringing out things that are going to help you grow? We seem to have so much time to read all these different books. And when you're asked, how many of you read the Bible? I ain't got time. I was really busy, so I didn't get to read it. Busy with what? The Bible should be on the top of your reading list. And in fact, we have a whole reading plan that is there for us to utilize. And yet we feel that we do not have enough time for the Bible. But the Bible, when it comes to reading, that should be the number one thing that we engage ourselves in. It's good to read. It's good to read. I mean, we read so many different books in our schools, but what you're reading, is it helping you grow? Are you changing your spiritual life? Is it getting any better? Are you drawing closer to God through that which you are reading? Or is it just filling your mind with junk and things that are not real? I want to encourage you to begin reading, yes, but know what you're reading. Remember Philippians 4, verse 8, in all that you do, choose wisely so that you'll be able to grow the way that God wants you to grow.
Thank you for joining us this week. Join us again next week right here on Hope Channel Malawi with the program Energ-Aid. Remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.